Aspen University School of Education, Dissertation Defense, Presentation. The dissertation that I am presenting is the Community College Faculty Perceptions of Their Role in Student Retention, a Replicated Study by Maureen Ellis-Davis. I'm H.Roberts, and I'm doing this for Aspen University. The impact of faculty on student retention needs to be examined. Since there is very little research on this front, what do we know? We know that the faculty impact transcends the classroom, and it spills over into the socialization of college life, the students' persistence to graduation. How are faculty doing this? Through mentoring and building relationships with their students, modeling positive behavior, and teaching cultural capital. However, to better understand how that applies, these students fail to understand the culture around them and the cultural nuances they may be unaware of, and how that they might have difficulty fitting in and engaging with faculty or classmates and may struggle to complete coursework. The populations thought to have the greatest need and struggle with persistence are the underserved populations, minority groups, and non-traditional students. They make up a significant percentage of the active students found in community colleges. Interestingly, faculty likely are unaware of how they play a vital role in an institution's retention efforts. These are all parts of the problem statement. The line of research by Ellis-Davis adds to this growing body of knowledge by replicating it in a different setting and a new population. The significance of this research and the validation to Graham's original research done in 2017 strengthens the credibility of the study's design. It also may open up new avenues to explore. According to Ellis-Davis, the justification for moving this forward with the replication and its significance in higher education are the following reasons. One, it provides insight into the faculty roles and their perceptions on student retention and persistence and how it relates to the original work. Two, it will help others improve teaching and learning in the community college setting. And three, it will help identify what faculty prefer, why faculty prefer the community college setting versus the prominent universities where they can do academic research. Ellis-Davis is replicating Graham's original work from 2017. She is re-examining the original research questions in a new setting with a larger faculty population. The research questions from the original study and what was used in the replication are: one, how do full-time faculty, community college faculty members perceive and describe their role in student retention? Two, what experiences do faculty describe as motivating their participation in institutional retention initiatives? And three, what experiences do faculty describe as deterring their participation in institutional retention initiatives? Now that we've laid out the root of the problems, the justification and significance to why this research is valid, and the questions we hope to answer, excuse me, let's discuss the literature review. Ellis-Davis did a full review to make it well-rounded and avoided the tunnel vision that some people can fall into on her topic by looking at it through different lenses. She made a lot of connections to the themes that ran throughout the dissertation in the concept map. In the concept map, I've mapped out where everything occurred and how it related. The key is our guide to the themes of the literature review. We'll start with a brief overview of how the community college evolved in the 20th century, including theories from the founders of this line of research, such as Tinto, Spady, Q, Aston, and Bean. Ellis-Davis then expands that research into the red block. So we started with the blue, and now we're going to the red. By talking about the building blocks in the research on faculty role in retention and persistence, since there was a shift in this perception from student success to student retention. She then followed this line of thought with perceptions of faculty and discussed the institutional constraints that might hinder faculty engagement in student retention efforts. This line of thought transitions into the next section, which is engaging faculty in activities to promote retention, which is your purple into your green. And then finally, to help pull all of this work together, she sets up the conceptual framework of her research and the classical ecology theories used. For example, she starts off with D.C. and Ryan's theory of self-determination and Herzberg's motivation hygiene theory. Those were her founding theories initially, part of the conceptual framework. She followed that up with ecological theories such as Strange and Branning's campus ecology theory and Bronfenbrenner's human ecology theory. The conclusion to this robust journey leads us study into the methodology and the aim of her research. Graham's 2017 original research design was a qualitative femological case study. And in 2020, Ellis-Davis followed the same approach in her dissertation, but expanded it to a large metropolitan community college. She contacted Graham for permission to change the initial tool to accommodate the new setting and population. Due to these minor changes, and which did not impact the essence of the questions, she did not have to revet the instrument. The qualitative method of this study was ideal because it allowed the researcher to stay neutral and unbiased. During the study's interview process, which was critical, once the IRB approval was obtained, she sent out the email invites to 33 faculty members who met the criteria based on the original design. They had to be full-time and had to teach in high-impact practice, had to teach in high-impact practices or use or taught that way. Out of the 33, only 11 faculty participated. The COVID-19 pandemic impacted her faculty pool and dropped it from the original 17 that said they could participate down to 11, which still qualified it for a qualitative study. Ellis-Davis recorded each of her semi-structured interviews, transcribed, coded, and used Max QDA software to help organize and find the themes and nodes within the data. Now that we discussed the design and the methods of the research, let's talk about the results. First, the results from the 11 faculty who were interviewed were transcribed, and the transcripts were sent to them to evaluate for accuracy and to give approval. This process was done through No Notes transcription service. Then she followed that up with bracketing of the interviews, which is typical of the femological case studies, and then coded everything according to the common themes and words and phrases used. Finally, she used the Max QDA software tool for analysis and organization, as did Graham in her original study. The results were as follows. 19 nodes and 4 themes emerged from the data. 6 nodes were unique to the replicated study, and 14 nodes overlapped or were duplicates from the original study. Overall, all respondents believe that the most important thing they can do to support student retention is developing strong relationships with their students, as suggested in theme 1. The second theme to come to light was to retain the student. You need to motivate student learning. It's crucial to maintain the student. The third theme to emerge from the data was that feeling the institution's practices and policies directly impact the faculty's ability to retain students. The final theme from the interviews was external factors. What causes them not to persist? These events outside the faculty and the institution's control include life events, transportation, and the economy. Life, death, marriage, pregnancy, all these things are external factors that we have no control over as faculty, and that also then can impact your retention efforts. In the end, the reasons by all participants for not participating in the college's retention activities resulted from their dissatisfaction with the college's attention to the needs of the students or the faculty's efforts. Based on the comments directly quoted and some of the opinions expressed that carried through the interviews, there was a lot of lip service and checking the boxes, but not enough action by the administrators to set changes they're implementing into stone. So it's a lot of talk and no action, which is unfortunate. Finally, Ellis-Davis recaps her replicated study in the discussion section. She leads off with how the community colleges have evolved in the 21st century. So we've talked about the 20th century back in our literature review, and now we're talking about the 21st century and how things have evolved. They went from institutions about student success and success and success and success to retention, retention, persist, retention. That is where we are now. And this was mentioned in the research by Kiyama et al. 2014 and Halinka in 2017, as cited in Ellis-Davis's dissertation. And the original work by Graham in 2017, she followed this trend in research and found it to be an information gap. And her primary focus on how to close it. She planned to give practitioners a voice to discourse on the student retention efforts, which was cited in the dissertation by Ellis-Davis as Graham's original work from 2017. This replicated study by Ellis-Davis followed the same path as Graham and had similar results. In the discussion section, she takes the reader through the process, her role as the investigator and interviewer, and the meeting and understanding and the significance of the findings in the institution. Furthermore, she expands on the knowledge of the faculty's perceptions. The outcomes and the similarities of the two studies were more of the same than different. All faculty focused their time and efforts on teaching their students and mentoring them, whereas that might not be the case in other settings. They all then agreed that the relationships with the student is the crucial element in the student's will to succeed and persist. These efforts in the classroom positively impact student retention, as cited in Ellis-Davis 2020's dissertation. The campus ecology theory can help conceptualize the results by applying human and developmental ecology principles to the higher education. She explains how this theory can fill the gaps between internal and external environments. Finally, Vincent Tinto's persistence theory is applied, and Ellis-Davis discusses how it impacts the study. It was echoed by all participants that colleges retain students while students persist in their studies, as cited by Tinto in 2016, and also in Ellis-Davis's dissertation. One of the things that was found interesting is that college does in fact support student retention activities. And a lot of the interviews might have had misguided information on what activities were perceived as retention efforts. Due to the Ellis-Davis replicating the study, there were limitations she encountered in her setting that differed from Graham's. They are as follows. The reluctance of the faculty to participate is due to recording their perceptions of the institution where they're employed. This made a lot of folks really nervous about being truthful due to the fear of retaliation if any of this information was leaked. Ellis-Davis did record the information on and kept it on her personal computer under lock and key in her home versus on the campus to reassure people that their confidentiality would be maintained regardless. Again, the politics on the campus could hinder candor, which relates back to number one. Only full-time faculty were used when part-time faculty met the criteria other than being full-time. They also teach or use high-impact practices. Finally, the perception of the roles was mentioned as it relates to the affiliation agreements between a community college and a university. Do the faculty who work at a community college that's affiliated to a large four-year university see themselves differently as more of a prep, like I start here, I hand off to you? Or is it different, all out different? I'm working at a community college as faculty in a vocational occupational program, and I'm setting you up for your career. So those were the differences that were noted on that faculty perception, which probably should be further investigated. And that's why it was seen as a limitation. Ellis-Davis had a few recommendations for other researchers who might want to pursue this line of thought. First, the participants stated that advising students was considered necessary, but it was undervalued in student retention. Also, it was unexpectedly thought to be a divisive issue at her college because it requires training specifically on how to advise students academically. This can be an issue when the advisor has to advise a student on courses outside their discipline. The second recommendation was to replicate the study in another setting because the perception of faculty may be different due to the type of institution you're working in. Is it a private, for-profit, religious? What is it? In my case, it would be online. Nevertheless, it will provide clarity to the findings of both studies by Graham and Ellis-Davis. The final recommendation is to assess how the campus culture ties into retention and the persistence. This is an exciting avenue since there is very little research available about how it could impact student retention and provide insight to the administrators about their campus climate while assessing the faculty perceptions and interactions with students. As I conclude my presentation on Ellis-Davis's replicated study based on Graham's original work from 2017, I found this line of research fascinating. I want to explore this further in my dissertation efforts in the future to determine how I could apply it in my academic setting with a few minor tweaks and adjustments. I'm in an environment that is a university, but we are completely online, 100% online. All of our faculty work remotely, and we're a disaggregated model. We have three-pronged system. We have faculty who do nothing but evaluations and critiquing of papers. Another part of testing, we have mentoring, which is where I fall into. So we're like the jack of all trades of all the coursework and know it all inside and out. And then we have specific content experts who are on that course, that specific course. So as we all work together, we fill that mentoring body and content expert, which is what is being expected from faculty who have to grade, have to be the mentor, and have to teach. So we have it all separated out in our model. So it'd be interesting to see how that applies to Graham's work or Ellis-Davis's research. So to move on, when discussing the similarities, Ellis-Davis stated that the parallel responses offered to the same questions support the notion that perceptions are attributes of roles rather than other factors. I found that fascinating. Another similarity was that the participants described their role as faculty as a teacher who motivates their students to succeed, whether in the classroom or outside. The next similarity noted was that all faculty stated they chose to be in the community college to teach versus being an academic researcher. Finally, both groups cited institutional practices are at a perceived obstacle to their retention activities. This rang true in Graham's research and in Ellis-Davis's research. The differences were that both studies differed on how advising and counseling should be implemented. The faculty agree that training is critical, but to what extent? And that's where the differences lie. Is it a simple training or is it more formalized? Vincent Tinto echoes this in his book, Leaving College. He states institutions are beginning to take seriously the notion that advising is not a skill that comes naturally. I can speak to that in my role at the university I'm at. As a result, many colleges and universities are putting formal training programs in place to assist advising efforts. My final thought I would like to share is that final thought that I like to share is this. As I quote Ellis-Davis, this study adds to a growing body of knowledge in the community college faculty as a subset of the professorate and offers an understanding of the role by describing their lived experiences as academic professionals. If faculty clearly understand their role and how it impacts the institution's mission, they will better be equipped to support the students and their goals. Finally, these are the references that I used for this presentation. Thank you so much. Have a great day.